The video game industry has a weird relationship with sequels. When something becomes popular, the publisher behind it will waste no time at all in putting hundreds of employees to work to ensure a new project is released regularly, which has given us a world where players get a new Call of Duty every single holiday like clockwork. As a result, more often than not, you can guarantee that a blockbuster game will get a sequel at some point. But as quick as they are to put a series on a conveyor belt production line, publishers are just as quick to guillotine it as soon as sales numbers come in under expectations. Consequently, there are a bunch of games from across the years players have invested in only for their time with them to be cut short as anticipated follow-ups are shelved. I'm Josh from WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 obvious video game sequels the industry is ignoring. And no, Half-Life 3 will not be on this list. I'm sick of it, you're sick of it, let's just acknowledge it now and move on with our lives. Sorry, Rich. Number 10, Time Splitters 4. Time Splitters 4 is the potential sequel that just won't go away. The last installment released over 15 years ago, and yet fans, fueled by the nostalgia still felt for those early shooters, haven't given up hope of seeing a fourth game recapturing that magic. In their defense, it hasn't helped temper expectations that developers and former developers alike have always talked about the possibility of a new game. In fact, 2 years after Future Perfect launch in 2005, it was announced that a follow-up was in the works. However, the original developers Free Radical were bought by Crytek to become Crytek UK after entering administration. Sadly, the new company didn't fare much better and also hit financial problems, leading to developers in 2012 admitting that Time Splitters 4 probably wouldn't ever see the light of day. Cut to 2019 though, and apparently a new Time Splitters is back on, this time from publisher THQ Nordic and original co-creator Steve Ellis. Will it happen this time? I have no idea, probably not, and I don't want to get my hopes up, but maybe. Number 9, Dead Space 4. Dead Space was done dirty. The first 2 games in the series were arguably the best survival horror games of that generation, but publisher EA just couldn't keep their grubby mitts out of the pie. Not content with being the biggest name in survival horror, the company wanted Dead Space to be the biggest name in video games, and that meant creating a third title that went down a way more action-heavy and blockbuster-inspired route. Consequently, Dead Space 3 transformed the series from being focused on single-player atmospheric shootouts in dimly lit space stations to an all-out brawl with another player by your side to kill as many necromorphs as possible on a brightly lit snow planet. Oh, and with microtransactions as well now because, yeah, this is EA, what do you expect? This obviously turned off pre-existing fans and didn't win any new ones, and Dead Space has been on ice ever since. It's a popular name, but considering the publisher shuttered original developers Visceral Games, a follow-up anytime soon isn't looking likely. Number 8, Prey 2, no, not that one. Now this is a weird one. Prey 2 has technically already happened in Arcane's 2018 Prey, but it's not the sequel everyone lost their minds over at the start of the decade. That's because the latest release is more of an in-name only reboot, whereas the original idea for Prey 2 was far different and more tightly woven into the story of the original game. This follow-up would have had players take control of a bounty hunter across a gritty sci-fi open world, and the trailers looked awesome, but sadly the game didn't live up to Bethesda's expectations and was cancelled. Yes, that's the same Bethesda that pushed out the broken Fallout 76, because apparently, at one point anyway, they actually had standards. Of course, this hasn't stopped fans from pining over the sequel coming back in some form, especially when a killer twist was revealed the other year, and it's not entirely a pipe dream. We currently live in an age where older games can receive direct sequels even if they've been rebooted, like Devil May Cry 5, but even with that in mind, this does seem unlikely to ever happen. Number 7, Alan Wake 2. Remedy haven't really been in the business of making sequels recently. Their past 3 games have all been one-and-done affairs, but whether or not that's a creative decision or a financial reality, it's meant that either way, fans haven't received the sequel to Alan Wake they've been craving since 2010. Though it did enjoy some DLC in American Nightmare, a full sequel that follows up the ambiguous end of the original has never materialized. a decision which was mostly down to publisher Microsoft. Alan Wake wasn't the breakout franchise the company expected, and Remedy was tasked with creating another exclusive for them with Quantum Break rather than a continuation. Remedy have remained aware of feelings fans have for their horror masterpiece though, and actually put a whole load of Alan Wake connections and Easter eggs into their latest release Control. That, combined with the fact that they now own the IP outright after Microsoft relinquished it, has gotten up hopes of fans once more. Seriously, Remedy, please give me a crossover between this and Control. I would love you dearly forever. Number 6. Skate 4. The dream of Skate 4 has been enough to fuel entire speculation articles and videos for pretty much an entire decade. The first major contender to Activision's Tony Hawk's games, EA's Skate arguably bettered the competition by swapping out the arcadey nature of tricks and stunts for a challenging version of virtual skateboarding. It also had far fewer Jackass cameos, which in the late 2000s was definitely a good thing. A few hints and teasers have kept the hope burning over the years, like EA randomly turning the servers back on for Skate 3 and countless rumours surrounding press events like E3 arising each year, but recently the publisher failed to renew the trademark, killing the dream once again. Number 5. Left 4 Dead 3. Another threequel that Valve just refuses to give players, Left 4 Dead 3 absolutely should have happened by now. The original 2 games took the world by storm, and released within the space of 2 years, making for one hell of a 1-2 punch of a multiplayer phenomenon. Since then though, the franchise has been left to languish, as original developers Turtle Rock partnered with other publishers for similar multiplayer efforts. Sadly, their follow-up Evolve was not well received, and despite being Ash Millman's favourite game ever, yes, for real, died a pretty quick death shortly after launch. They've moved on to another project now, a game that sounds like Left 4 Dead 3 in pretty much every other way than the name, but it's unclear if it can actually live up to the heritage of the team's previous efforts. As for an actual sequel, there have been occasional rumblings throughout the years, but nothing ever concrete. Knowing Valve, they'll probably announce a VR exclusive spin-off next year or something, I don't know. Number 4, Alien Isolation 2. The Alien brand was in tatters following the release of Colonial Marines. There had been bad games in this franchise before, don't get me wrong, but the train wreck of that release nuked any remaining bridges with fans, leaving them all wondering whether Sega even cared about delivering a game that could do the source material justice. And then, out of nowhere, Alien Isolation released and everything was kind of forgiven. This was a project that swapped out the action of aliens for the atmospheric survival horror of Alien, pitting virtually powerless players against the deadliest predator in the galaxy. It made for an awesome horror game, but the real win was that the alien DNA was woven into the fabric of the experience, and wasn't just there for set dressing. This was an authentic representation of the world conjured up in Ridley Scott's original movie, and it was goddamn glorious. Sadly, perhaps because of the residual stink of Aliens Colonial Marines or the lukewarm reviews, Isolation didn't sell amazingly, and the developers have been put onto other projects since. Number 3, Portal 3. Oh, look, it's another Valve sequel. Remember when they actually made games that people played? Yeah, they were great times, weren't they? Sorry, Rich again. Like a lot of the franchises from this company, Portal's time in the spotlight was brief but potent. The original game was more like a 2-hour proof of concept that didn't even get its own standalone release initially, but was instead bundled into the orange box. Still, that was enough to get players interested, and a full sequel arrived a few years later, adding co-op and delivering a puzzle-solving experience that made it one of the best games of the decade. Unfortunately, you know how this story ends by now. Encountering yet another case of threequelitis, Valve never got around to releasing another follow-up, but have kept the brand alive through the occasional, and I do mean occasional, spin-off. Number 2, Bully 2. Like Valve, Rockstar have suddenly become extremely picky when it comes to delivering sequels to their biggest franchises. The developers have a ridiculously lucrative library of names that they could choose from, but because of just how demanding their titles are to produce, it's meant that there hasn't really been much scope to release games outside of Red Dead Redemption and Grand Theft Auto. As a result, that's meant the possibility of fans ever getting a Bully 2 has grown increasingly slim as the years have worn on. Not only has the vision of the devs narrowed, but their approach to narrative and gameplay has evolved drastically from the arcade hijinks of Bully. Fans have never wavered in their desire for a sequel though, and for the longest time it seemed like it was actually happening. Rumours and artwork from the project were constantly being leaked, and at one point we actually had a pretty strong idea of what a sequel could look like. Tragically though, a source earlier this year revealed that while all those rumours were indeed real, they were from a prototype that has since been abandoned. Apparently Rockstar had been kicking around ideas for a while, but couldn't bring them all together and dropped it in favour of other projects. A new version of Bully 2 might see the light of day eventually, but Rockstar will have to go back to the drawing board first. Number 1. Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic. There aren't all that many open goals in the world of business, but Knights of the Old Republic 3 seems about as close to one as you can actually get. The first 2 games, yes, even the second one, are revered as some of the best Star Wars tie-ins of all time, mixing the beloved universe with BioWare's signature RPG style in a winning way. The series boasted engaging combat, engrossing worlds to explore, and plot twists that are still talked about to this day. So why haven't EA done the obvious thing and made a sequel now they once again have the Star Wars license? Well, nobody really knows. Apparently devs inside BioWare have lobbied for it to happen, but the head honchos at EA just won't bite. It's probably because the MMO spin-off simply titled Star Wars: The Old Republic is still going strong-ish, and was one hell of a money sink for the company. While that's up and running, Knights of the Old Republic 3 will probably never happen. Though that might be for the best considering how the publisher has transformed classic franchises for the worst this generation. So that's our list. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. Are you absolutely gagging for these sequels? Or are you pleased that we actually, haven't received them yet? Either way, while you're down there, could you give us a like, share, subscribe, and head over to WhatCulture.com for more lists and news like this every single day. Even if you don't though, I've been Josh. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.